the obvious question is, if it's Darashvi and you see clearly just in this mimer, or even how the Rebbe Rashab was explaining it, how does everyone miss it when I ask your average person who's learned these Maimar or Tanya or whatever it is, they say once he chose, now he needs it, completely optional. Across the board. Is only when I started listening to your classes or the way we were learning the Maimarim, it became non-optional. So as much as the Rebbe explained it, it's still definitely not out there. Bizbuz Ha'itzrus is not happening. I mean, I think it's happening through the work that we're doing, but how do you see why everyone missed it? When it's so clear, you just don't know, or is it just part of the process of revealing it?
So the Rebbe is talking about what is a geirel. What does it mean to choose lots? When you choose the lot, then the answer is coming. L'mayla mehaseichel. It's higher than your own intelligence. Or l'mayla gam meharotzen, higher than your own will. Because it will decide. Al derech zehu b'negeh lebechira. The same is true when we say that there's a choice. Choice also means higher than seichel and higher than rotzen. Because if your seichel dictates one over the other, then there is no choice. And if you want one over the other, also there is no choice. So choice means something that is decided in a place that is higher than your seichel and higher than your rotzen. וכאשר שכלי מחייב שהדבר זה לא לבחר בי, וגם כשהוא רצה באיזה דבר, הרצון שלו מיילה מהשכל, הרי הוא מוכרח בזה, ואין זה בחירה חופשיס. I think the Frierdiker Rebbe says that by a Baal Seichel, if you convince him that something is bad, you force him to avoid it more than if you point a gun to his head.
But what about not a Baal Seichel? Like, can someone choose to go against their Seichel so their logic dictates one thing?
It's not that they can choose to go against it. They don't really understand it. That's why it doesn't affect them. But if they really understood and they can see with their mind's eye that this is bad, there's no way they can do it. To see הבחירה הוא כשהבחירה שלו היא לא מצד השכל וגם לא מצד הרוצן. So to say that the Eibishter's bechira comes after his rotzen, no, it doesn't. Bechira is higher than rotzen. Elo shekach beiche bebechirose hachofshis. So what does it mean that he chooses it freely? Freely, without influence of seichel, without influence of rotzen. Let's take a look at footnote 61.
The inyan habechira hu sheyach lirtzos v'loy lirtzos.
So it sounds like he has an option. He can want or not want. That's want. But the bechira is not optional. That's where people get confused.
Right. Can you just explain that a little more?
We say that the Eibishter, we don't know the Eza Mehem Chafetz. We don't know, does he want the mitzvahs, does he want Avedas, does he want Eir, does he want Cheshach? We don't know what he wants because he can want anything. That doesn't mean he can choose anything. Because if you can want anything and yet you choose this and not the other, that shows that this is the real you and it can't be any other way.
So most people say once he wants it, now he needs it. It's the exact opposite.
It doesn't explain anything.
Right.
He could have chosen anything. Okay, so why did he choose this? Well, he flipped the coin. I mean, if you can do anything, and despite that you do only this and not the other, that bechira is coming from a place higher than your rotzen, because in rotzen you're not committed, and with a bechira that is you. Okay, I think this is sufficient, but it gets better. So where's the next page?
So just the final words.
Yeah.
So the next page starts Vahachiluk ben girl bechirahu
Yeah.
at the top.
Yeah. So basically he's saying that bechira is like a geirel. But the chiluk, what is the difference between geirel and bechira? The kisha adam is a geirel, amachle de kamesha yipol ha-geirel, can you hear it say? Nay. Ha-ratzen shalei hu lei mitzad ha-adam elop nesha kein nofal ha-geirel. In the geirel, it is above your own seichel and above your own ratzen, but it's not coming from you. The geirel is deciding. Ubechira hi sheha-adam hu ha-becher. Umizem move on, this makes bechira higher than geirel. The geirel hu hamadrege hu hadarge benefesh hi mugderes umuchrachas bezeh sheshnei hadvarim him shavim legaba. Why do you use a geirel? You use a geirel because the two options are equal. So you have to use the geirel because you have no other choice. Ve'in habechira hu she'enei mugdar umuchrach be'ezeh davar keilu dvarim shavim legabei u'bicholte livche b'ma she'yirtze. So bechira chofshis means I can choose when there is no reason. There's no reason to choose one over the other. But in the human being, if there is no reason to choose one over the other, then you can't make a choice. So you use a geirel. You let something else make the choice for you because you can't. The Eibishter doesn't have that problem. So even when there is no reason or rotzen for one over the other, he can still choose. Why? Because that's really him. So he doesn't have to go to an outside source to make the choice for him. ויש להם, בבחירה יש להם שני עניינים. הדרגה דנפש של המיילה מסייכל, שלגבו שני הדברים הם בשווה, דרגס הגדל. In a human being, you can have both experiences. You have where you can't make a decision because both things are perfectly the same. So you become catatonic. But then when he actually makes the choice, even though both things are equal to him, that is bo me'etzem hanefesh. So the simple question is, you say he chooses one over the other and then it becomes mukhrach. How does he make the choice? Or where is that choice coming from? I mean, it's ridiculous to say he just chose one. He couldn't decide which one. He had to decide, so he just chose one. And tomorrow he can change his mind. Where does that choice come from?
Right. How does he get?
Like in a human being, if I can't find a reason to choose one over the other, then I don't choose. But by the Eibishter, even though they're perfectly alike, he chooses. What does that mean? It means that it's basically him. ועל-ידי הבחירה ההמשכה מהעצם להדרגה דגיירל. How do you go from the Eibishter's etzem, from just him, to the step down to the level of Geirel? Hadargya shelagabo shnei advarim hem b'shava. Gam hageirel hagam shemitzadatz me'ef sheli es b'shnei yoifanim hu kefia b'chira. So Geirel is just another way of revealing what his b'chira is. ועל דרך מה שכוסף עתו תמך גרלי, שהקדוש ברוך הוא תמך את הגרל שיהיה כפי בחירת העצמוס. He's got fixed dice. What is it called? When you tamper with the dice?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So the Eibishter's Geirel is pre-programmed to be in accordance with what he chooses. זהו מה שכוסה יבחר לנו es nachlasena es gein Yankev the beyakev ksiv Yankev chevel nachlasei tergem unkelis Yankev odov achsanese the odov is that odov hu geirel.
Yeah, not sure what that is.
ועניין יבחר אז גאי ינקבו שגם בדרכס הגדול של המיילה משתלשל שהקל שווים שם הבחירה היא בישראל דווקא. So the real question is, why do they call it bechira?
Right. That throws everybody off.
Mm-hmm. Because we're making the mistake of thinking that it all begins with the bechira. It doesn't begin with the bechira. It begins with him. So that even when he is becher, he is himself. So of course the bechira is going to be him. And even in the level of geirel, the geirel is also according to him.
So it had to express itself in Bechira and Ratzon and all those levels.
Huh?
I'm saying it had to express itself in Bechira and Ratzon and Seichel and everything like that.
That's even further.
Meaning the part where people have a problem is the non-optional to him, that he had to choose this or had to need this or had to want this. Yeah. So like in the Ha'ara before, it says,
yeah.
Like makes it sound like he could want anything he wants.
In that level where the Ratzon is optional, but he's not optional.
So what makes the Ratzon optional?
He can want whatever he wants.
Not really.
He can create whatever he wants to create. But obviously, he's going to create what Atzmus demands.
Right. So that he can't create whatever he wants to create or want whatever he wants. He has to go according to his fixed whoever he is.
Which is much higher than his Ratzon.
Right. So it's just like that's where the ambiguity comes in and the people get thrown off. He can need what he wants, or once he chose, now he needs it, or once he wants, now he wants it, but it always is protecting this
so
thing.
Here's the problem. You're starting off with just him. There is just him and nothing else. There's no Ratzon, there's no Bechira, there's no Geirel, there's no Seichel, there's nothing, right?
Right.
Okay, so what happened? All of a sudden, there's a Ratzon. All of a sudden? Where did that come from? So we're talking about a level where Ratzon is not even a reality.
Right.
So what is his Ratzon going to be when he goes down into the level of Ratzon? So as far as Ratzon is concerned, it can be anything. But as it turns out, his essence expresses itself in his Ratzon. It's almost like in a negative, the effects of Sheikhad. Somebody gives you a compliment, then your thinking is now influenced by your instinct. And even if you used to be a big chacham, your thinking is going to get twisted. Why? Because your self-interest affects your seichel.
Right.
So even after a dayan accepts sheikhad, is he still capable of ruling either way? As far as his intelligence is concerned, yes. That's why he's a dayan. But once you introduce the sheikhad, then the seichel can't go either way. Now it's going to go the way his prejudice. So, we forget that we're starting with Atzmus. What is the next step? What happens? How does Atzmus become Gilui? Any kind of a Gilui. Even the highest level of Ratzon. Where did it come from? And why? Because of the Taiva. And where did the Taiva come from? It didn't come from anywhere. That's him. וזהו על כן כל היום האלה פורים על שם הפור. שנפילס הגרל למיילו היסה כפי כוונס ובחירס העצמוס. So what does it mean? He's calling it Purim because of the Pur. It is Purim begashmis because of the Pur that was be'etzem. Tahagam she'ach och Esav li'yankiv. Mikol mokim ve'eves yankiv es Esav sanesi. There is no reason that he should like Yaakov better than Esav, and yet he does. Dal yedei hamasidas nefesh di Yisrael b'meshech kol hashono. The inyan hamasidas nefesh hu me'etzem haneshama. Hainu mitzad habechira de'etzem haneshama b'ha'atzmus. This is very important. Mitzad the etzem haneshama, there is a bechira, and the bechira is an atzmus. So there's no bechira. This is your etzem haneshama. So al yedei zeh nimshach v'nizgal bechira so atzmus b'Yisrael, when the Yidden expressed their essential connection to the Eibishter, then the Eibishter reveals his essential connection to Yidden. Al yedei zeh gam hagedel de l'maylo hoya shel Yehudim yiyeh eira v'simcha v'sasan v'kor v'yes haman v'ezbanav yitlu al ha'etz. Umedayek hakosov hapur behei, hei hayadua. It was called Purim al Shem Hapur. Let's see the footnote here. 69. The Yidden's Bechira in the Eibishter in Tanya Seif Perek Yud Ches, he says, She'i efsher klal lichber b'Hashem echad. So what's the Bechira? Umavod makemacher le'il chelik beis, the kiven, shemesiras nefesh hu gili ha'yechida she'en kenegda le'umazeh, babua de babua les lahen. The etzem of the neshama, yechida, the nefesh habahamis doesn't have a yechida. Lochin hamesiras nefesh shelo ba'efen she'en yachol liyes nifret chas v'shalom. Mekiven she'yin ha'bechira hu amud ha'torah v'ha'mitzvah, like the Rambam says in Hilchos Tshuva, v'ha'bechira hi me'ikei mailas havedas ha'odam tzarech leimar v'rei gam l'kut ha'sichas chelik daled v'elech in the Ha'ara 14, the zeh shemitzad ha'yechida iyef shaliyas be'efen acher ein zeh shehi muchrachas bozeh elo sha'bechira shelo b'ha'atzmus hi ha'sheleles shelo yi and the sinas moken ve'efshadas liyas nifrachas v'shalom. V'al derech lahachlifan b'um acheres eini yochel in psichte. In Rus Rabbah, I can't hold this thing here. What's the last line there? Come on. Shezehu mitzad. Shezehu mitzad b'chirosei sh'HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'Yisrael b'chirosei ha'chofshis. Okay. So on the one hand, you say he had no other choice. On the other hand, you say he's not mukhrach. Well, what does that mean? If it is his absolute essence, of course, nothing forces that. If it forces, then it's not him. When you say it's him, it means it is naturally, essentially him. So how can you say him forces him to choose this? Him doesn't force him. But because of who he is, it eliminates any other possibility. So it's called Hapur, Hey Hayediya, Shekoyi al Hapur Shehipul Haman. In the simple taich, it goes. It's referring to the pur that Haman made. Kayedei hanes the purim nizgale shegam hapur shehipul Haman haya melechatchila b'shvil hagili the bechiras ha'atzmas b'Yisrael. You can say beruchnis. Purim is called Purim because of the Eibishter's pur. I said, no. Haman's pur was according to the Eibishter's ratzon. Bechira. So the whole thing happened melechatchila b'shvil hagili the bechiras ha'atzmas b'Yisrael, because the Eibishter wanted to reveal that his connection to Yidden is in atzmas. וזהו שנופל הפור בחדש אדר, חדש שבין נולד משיח של ישראל, כי נפילת הפור מלכתחילה היסה בכדי שיסגלה שגם הפור הוא עצמי. אף שיש במוקם לשני הצדדים, ויסייד מזה שבחצייניס היה נראה שהפור הוא לטבעו של המן. ועד שהיסה גזירה. At the same time, הפנימי של הפור היה גם מלכתחילה כפי בחירס העצמוס, ואייבס יעקב ואס עשיו סנסי. ועל דרך זה הוא בנגיע לעץ אשר הכין לי לעצמי. The simple taich is the tree or the gallows that he prepared for Mordechai. But in reality, he prepared it for himself to get hanged himself. The Hagam she'osa eitz govea chamishim amma, hu kirotza lahagia l'shar hanun shelo mayla mishtal shelus, shesham hu kachshecha ka'ira. There, any rotzen is possible, so it could be that Haman would win. So the Nes of Purim Hoyo, Shegam mitzad hadarge de la mayla mishtal shelus, Geidel Shar Hanun, Tolu es Haman al ha'etz, v'oz nizgale shegam zeh heichen ha'etz melachatchila. Haya lei la'atzmei. V'zehu inyan Purim, shemei Purim b'chol shana v'shana nimsha shegam b'darges ha'pur shalomayla mishtal shelus, yihi yel yivchar lano es nachloseinu es gein yankiv, u'mocha emche Zecher Amolik, all the Maila Mehaseichel and Etzem Harotzen, Begeula Hashlema Bekorev Mamish. What was that? Was one sentence that you sent? No?
The one sentence.
At 7:35 p.m.
Oh yeah,
in
the Kuntras.
Masa Habecher, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Could we read through that?
Yeah. Ba'esies acheres. I can start before. Ach, mikiven shemitzad ha'etzem ein dover nivdol mimeno, v'loi kayem shum metziah zulosei livcher bei. When you say the Eibishter chose, what does it mean he chose? Then nothing existed besides him. Al kein gam ha'bechira, in quotes, b'Yisrael b'mokem zeh, on that level, where there is nothing besides him. He chooses Yidden, משום שהם מושרשים בעצמוס יזברך, כי חלק הוויה ממש עמי. So is it a bechira?
That's the trap. If there's nothing to choose, what is a yid? It's him. So how did he choose them if it's him? It's just so confusing.
Yeah. Let's see how the Rebbe explains it. Mohus ha-bechira b'sharsha. What really is bechira? Does bechira mean I have two possibilities and I have to choose one? It's so funny. It's like the theory of evolution. How did the world begin? Well, there were two things. There were gases and there were particles. How did you get to two things? The same as with the Eibishter. The Eibishter had two possibilities. What? There were no possibilities. So what kind of choice is that? Not only didn't you have two things, you didn't have one thing. So, Mohus ha-bechira b'sharsha ein zeh sheshnei dvarim nivdolim lefanov. It's not that there are two different options in front of him. V'hu beicha b'davar echad mitech mishneu. And he chooses one over the other. That's physical choice. It's not the true inyan ha-bechira. Ki b'sheidish ha-bechira lo kayemes shum shetach nivdol mimenu. Where bechira comes from, there are no options at all. Elo bechirase b'Yisrael hu kamesha becher ba'atzmei mamish. Why becher ba'atzmei? That's all there was. There was only him. You say, yeah, well, what about Yidden? That's him. Omnam, av shegam bechira zu, neses v'keleles b'techa kol tekiv hamayla sheyesh b'bechira chavshis. What is the greatness of a bechira chavshis? It's shalei bo mitzad hechra v'siba chas v'sholem ki im mehabecher atzmei u'kameshan is boer ba'arucha b'peirik vov. Mikol makeim dafke mitzad eitzem ma'alosei v'teikve hi hanesenes shenechsar begili shelo l'chutz. (16) V'hainu deloi rak she'ein kan siba v'tzedach livche b'davar zulosei ki lo yesh beichisoren. V'ochein shayla zo tiratznu b'perik vav. The in ha-bechira hu l'mayla mesiba. Elo eid zeis the klal le nimtza davar zulosei livcher bei shahakil kolu be'atzmusei. It's really like, how can he choose something? It makes it sound like he was missing something, imperfection. That's not the whole problem. The real problem is there was nothing to choose. So the choice is in Atzmus itself. And because there is no reason and Nothing compels the choice. That's why it is so awesome. V'zehu shapirish Rashi. What does it mean? Am segula. Segula means eitzer chaviv shehamelochim geinzim eisam.
Okay.
It's an eitzer that is kept hidden. Li yes chibosan shel Yisrael b'mokim zu kedugmas eitzer gondas v'sosan. This ahava that the Eibishter has for Yidden is like a hidden treasure. What does it mean? Shemesanig hamelech u'mishtasha be'etzem himotzam. He keeps it hidden because just having it is the pleasure. He doesn't have to do anything with it. V'loi ke'emtzoyi legalis yafya l'chutz. He doesn't need to show it off. Showing it off would give him a pleasure. But just having it is enough pleasure that he doesn't have to show it off. Lahares leiv oshrei. Eile hishtamish behem letzorchi hamlucha. So we're learning in Basi Lagani that the Eibishter is megala the eitzres, mevazviz the eitzres, and gives it to the soldiers that they should be able to win the war. What are the eitzres? What is it? What is it that was kept hidden all this time, not shown and not seen? What is it? So in the Maimed he says, it's the lamayla mayla aden ketz. And now we know. Oh, we have the eitzes. What do we have? The lamayla mayla aden ketz. What is that? Lamayla mayla aden ketz means that the Eden are important to the Eibishter. Lamayla mayla ad ein ketz. There's nothing higher. There's no greater connection than the Eibishter and Eden. Not for any reason, including not because we do mitzvahs and not because we learn Torah. That was kept hidden. It's still hidden. Even when you tell people, they don't believe you. But the whole point of Chassidus is to reveal Atzmus until you know Atzmus. And again, what is Atzmus? Atzmus means that whatever happens, whatever created, whatever, it all started from him and because of something about him. So the question really is, what is this dynamic by which Atzmus becomes Gilui? We understand, of course, that Gilui can't be Atzmus itself. Some part of Atzmus that can be understood and appreciated by creation, that's what you're Megala. A teacher can't explain everything he knows. He can only explain what the Talmud is able to understand. So Gili means a reduction. So it's not mamish him. Yet we say that in Torah the Eibishter revealed himself. So what is Gili ha'atzmus? Isn't that a contradiction in terms? If it's Gili, then it's not atzmus, and if it's atzmus, it's not Gili. That's the law that the Eibishter breaks when he gives us Torah. Yeah, that's the law. The law is Atmos is not Gili, Gili is not Atmos. So the Abishah says, so what? I want to be Megala. So that's what it means that there was a Gzeze. El Yenim Layerde Lamata, Tachtenim Layala Lamaila. But at Matan Torah, the Abishah broke that rule. What is El Yenim? Atmos. And what is Tachtenim? Gili. So the rule was that Gili can't be Atmos and Atmos can't be Gili. So the Abishah said, yeah, but I want to. Try and stop me. And like the Rebbe Rashab says, once you know who you're dealing with, you have a whole new derech eretz. So it affects how we behave. It's not just a theory. So why are people having a hard time with it? So the Rebbe says, I think it's in a Yud Shvat Maimer, the Yetzer Hara doesn't want you to know how great you are. People say, even people learning Tanya for the first time, the nefesh Hashem is b'Yisrael hi chelek elaka mima'al mamish. And their question immediately is, what do you mean? What do you mean a piece of him? How can you chop him up into pieces? What is the correct answer? You're right. It's him. A chelik. It's him. Kishatatefes b'miktzosei, atatefes b'kulei. So the question was, how can a chelik be him? The answer is, you're right. Him is not a chelik. I remember a story about a Misnagid asked, Afa pisha chota Yisroel. But if he's chota, how can you call him a Yisroel? And the Rebbe said, I have that kasha too, but in the other direction. If he's Yisroel, how can you say he sins? So people ask, how can a chelik be him? The answer is, him can be anything. He can come down as a chelik, but it's him. He can come down as a bechira, he can come down as a geirel, he can come down as a rotzen, he can come down as a seichel. He can even come down as a carpenter who builds a world. He can even come down as Kaina Eved, Kaina Odain La'atzmei. He made for himself avodim. Ivdu es elikim. Yeah, so when you make yourself an Eved, you're appointing a boss over yourself. Tzadik Gezer Kadosh Baruch Hu Mekayim. This is not a unique mimer, or this is not unique to this mimer. That's a better way to say it. This idea is the Rebbe's theme for 40 years. Because it answers the original question. There was only him. What happened? Allah b'rtzaynei. What was Allah? There was nothing to be Allah. We really have to ask ourselves, why are you happy thinking that he does not need you? Why does that make you happy? Why was the Rebbe Rashab the only child who cried that the Eibusha doesn't appear to him? Shouldn't every kid cry about that? So what is this joy in saying, no, 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 he doesn't need us? But why does that make you happy? So there was actually, if you remember, last Kinnus, one of the Shluchim asked, what is Atzmus? What does Atzmus mean? He was asking, how do you describe the level called Atzmus? What are the parameters? What is Atzmus? What is Atzmus? Atzmus is he. This was such a revelation. It answered all his kashas. All his life he's been struggling with this. Because the word Atzmus is a little misleading. Atzmus means simply him. So say, he does not need you. And that makes you happy? When you say Atzmus doesn't need you, who cares? Because I don't need Atzmus, and Atzmus doesn't need me. I'm fine with that. But he doesn't need me. But I need him. That's frustration. Like in Cheder, we have to translate every word. Atzmus is taich ed. We don't do that. We say Atzmus. Why doesn't it say this clearly in Tanya L'Moshel? Or in the Rebbe Rashab's Maimorim and Hemshechem? Because it's an Eitzer Gonuz. It's been there all along, but it was never revealed. But in the day of Hashvi, when you have to have the final success in the war, even that is not only revealed, it's revealed in a wild fashion. Tell everybody and anybody. No restraints. Bizbuz ha'etzris. Yiras Shamayim is called an Eitzer. Now we know why. Because the real Yiras Shamayim you don't reveal. You don't need anyone to know your Yiras Shamayim in order to enjoy your Yiras Shamayim. Like an Eitzer. So Chassidim became Pnimim. They didn't need Gilui. They wanted Pnimius. Then they became Bali Mesiras Nefesh. And now in the Deir Ashvi, what made them Pnimim and Bali Mesiras Nefesh, now it has to be revealed. Where does Mesiras Nefesh come from and where does Pnimius come from? So is the Deir Ashvi different? As different as Shabbos is from weekday. The Alter Rebbe couldn't pronounce the word Atzilus. And we're not afraid to say, he, not Atzilus, he is essentially connected to us. I'm not afraid to say it. Because when Atzmus is Nizgala, there are no limits. Yeah.
So the obvious question is, if it's Darashvi and you see clearly just in this mimer, or even how the Rebbe Rashab was explaining it, how does everyone miss it when I ask your average person who's learned these Maimarim or Tanya or whatever it is, they say once he chose, now he needs it, completely optional. Across the board. Is only when I started listening to your classes or the way we were learning the Maimarim, it became non-optional. So as much as the Rebbe explained it, it's still definitely not out there. Bizbuz Ha'Eitzros is not happening. I mean, I think it's happening through the work that we're doing, but how do you see why everyone missed it when it's so clear? You just don't know, or is it just part of the process of revealing it?
Because in all the Chassidus that we learned from the past generations, that seems to be the message. We don't understand Atzmus. We don't know anything about Atzmus. We can't say anything about Atzmus. In other words, the treasure is hidden. So the Rebbe says, until now it was hidden. Now it's being revealed. Somehow they didn't get that transition. They didn't catch it. Because it sounds like a contradiction to the previous Rabbeim. Every Rebbe said that Atzmus is not Begili. The Rebbe says it is. It can't be. What do you mean it can't be? It wasn't until now. Now it is. When it comes to the Nitzach and Hamulchama, that which never was is. What was never revealed is revealed. That's why in the later years, Rabbi Yoel was starting to argue, why are we learning every other chassidus and not the Rebbe's Maimorim? Why the Rebbe's Maimorim so neglected? What's the difference? It's all the same chassidus. Teira Shvi is different. But just like the etzem bechira, the bechira atzmis, reveals itself in the rotzen and in the bechira and in seichel, in Torah. The same is true with chassidus. Now that we know what the core of chassidus is, now we can see it in Tanya, we can see it in the Rebbe Rashab for sure. Now you can see it everywhere. It was there, but it was hidden. Now it's not hidden. By the way, the Rebbe says a number of times in different Purim Maimorim that the Mesiras Nefesh that the Yidden had for that entire year. What is the emphasis on that? They had Mesiras Nefesh an entire year. Mesiras Nefesh generally is something that is not natural to you. You die al Kiddush Hashem, that's not you. You canceled you and surrendered to something bigger and higher and greater than you. That's Mesiras Nefesh. But if you do Mesiras Nefesh for an entire year, through all 4 seasons, like the Esrig, you're in Mesiras Nefesh in summer, Mesiras Nefesh winter, Mesiras. That shows that it's become you. So it's really not Mesiras Nefesh anymore. That's a much higher madrega. Yesh kaina ilomei b'sha achas. 1 hour of Mesiras Nefesh, you can fix everything. What about a year of Mesiras Nefesh? So when the Yidden stayed in the Mesiras Nefesh mode for an entire year, that was Megala, that it's not something strange to them. This is them. So the Abisha said, okay, now I'll tell you who I am.
So how does a Jew ever do a sin if that's really who he is? How can he choose to go against it? Even if there's a Yetzer Hara, a Yid nishtar vil, he can't go against, but he could go against. And that's sort of how people see God. Yeah, God is absolutely, essentially, he's always connected to you, but Yeah, he could not be connected to you or definitely not reveal it.
Hmm. Yeah. If this is his etzem, how did he keep it a secret for so long?
Exactly.
And why? Because the world could not handle it. Even Chassidim can't handle it. How are you going to tell this to non-Jews? Does it make a difference what a non-Jew can handle? Absolutely. The Eibishter shouldn't destroy the Jewish people, chas v'sholem, because ma yemru hagoyim, lama yemru hagoyim, lama yemru Mitzrayim. What do you care what Mitzrayim is going to say? And what is Chilul Hashem? By whom? If a goy loses respect for the Eibishter, it's a terrible thing. It's the worst thing. Why? Who cares what they think? Obviously, it matters. To the Eibishter. But your original question is a very good question. How can a Yid sin? It's a very good question. It's a miracle. Because, like you say, so what if he has a Yetzer Hara? He is godly. He shouldn't be able to sin. But the Zayah says, Nefesh ki sechta? A nefesh can sin? How is that possible? The answer is it's not possible. A Jew doesn't sin. It's like water doesn't spoil. Water cannot be polluted. Oh, really? What about all the polluted lakes? It's not the water that is polluted. There's polluted stuff in the water. I don't know what the word polluted means, by the way. The water is not damaged. Water doesn't spoil. So I think the word polluted means you introduced something that didn't belong there. So it's not the water becomes spoiled. In order to drink it, you have to get the garbage out and get back to the water. And the water was never spoiled. So what do you do to clean the water? You put it over a fire. Fire doesn't burn water. Only the garbage burns. That's what Gehenna is. It's bir chometz. You're not burning the neshama. You're burning the chometz that clings to the neshama. It's not just you can't burn on neshama. The neshama doesn't need burning. Neshama doesn't need a tikkun.
So what needs the tikkun? So what needs the tikkun? The pollutants, the averes.
The tikkun is separate the bad from the good. Burn off the bad part.
So a yid doesn't sin. So then who sinned?
The Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara sins and drags you with it. So at worst, you're an accessory to the crime. Your crime is that you didn't stop the Yetzer Hara.
So, Apal Pishachata Yisrael. Even though the Yetzer Hara sinned, you're still Yisrael. You never sinned.
Yeah, so it should say Ava Peshachota Hu Yisrael.
Yeah. Everyone walks around. The neshama needs a tikkun. The neshama needs a tikkun.
The nefesh needs a tikkun. That's the first correction. And which nefesh? The nefesh habahamis. So people complain, you make it sound all good. Everything's good. Everything's good. Is that, is that also a problem? Things can't be good? I think it's an amazing statement. The Rebbe says, the tachlis hakavana is not sur meirah. Not sinning is not the tachlis hakavana. How do we know? Because if the kavana was not to sin, so don't create anybody and nobody will sin. So you can't say the Avish created you not to sin. It's so ridiculous. Don't sin because then it'll prevent you from doing what you were created to do, which is the Asay Teiv. I mean, we would be very impressed. A person lives his whole life and never sinned. Wow. That's it? What a wasted life. All you did was not sin? So that's why it's so ridiculous when a person says, I can't put on tefillin. I sinned. I can't be frum. I blew it. You can't do good because you sinned? That is such a tricky, devious Yetzer Hara. No. You ate the cockamamie foods. Now you can't put on tefillin.
Um, so, just a couple follow up questions. When somebody asked point blank, now that we established that when we're talking about Assos, we're talking about him. It, what's a concise answer to someone who says, "So who is God?" And his essence, or absolutely who is God? Is there a definition that you can give off the cuff?
Yidden and Torah.
And the desire for the revelation of Yidden and Torah?
The revelation is already a commentary, but the essence is Yidden and Torah.
Meaning, but he was Yachid and he wants to be Echad. That's already a step down.
Yeah.
Because he's so one, it has to reveal itself.
For some reason, it's not complete without revelation. If not everybody knows, then the fact of it is not complete. It's like, why do you have to invite everybody to your wedding? Just go get married quietly, and that's it. So it seems like the ardus of a husband and a wife is completed when everyone in town knows that you're married and likes it.
But so you're saying because it is complete, that is the fact that has to trickle down to everything, not from a desire place, but just the simple fact of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always thought the taiva for dir b'tachtonim loy latzmusoi is coming from his essence,
Yeah.
meaning the desire for the dwelling place is not. You seem to be saying it's a step down now from the fact of the matter.
It's an expansion. We are one,
Okay.
but that has to expand to include everybody.
Right. It has to expand. Why?
Because until the whole world knows it, then ein hakise shalom ve'ein Hashem shalom.
But I'm saying, where does the whole world need the fact that the whole world has to know that? Where does that come from? Who needs that?
That's the essential definition of emes. Emes is something that no one can deny. If you can deny it, then the emes is lacking. And then people say, if it's so true, how come nobody knows? Maybe because it's true, that's why nobody knows. No, but if it was really true, everybody would know. Yeah, correct.
Um,
I guess that's the lamata mata adin tachlis.